Good day, everybody, every listener, every viewer. This is the next video in the sequence of the YouTube challenge for our group of Yeti Fox. I want to talk to you about gravity. And do you know that gravity, as it has been told to us, does not exist? Gravity does not exist. Between two things that are moving towards each other like masses, there is no unseen rubber band. Gravity, as being told and being taught at the schools, does not exist. This has been already known about 100 years ago, and you know what amazes me, that every few weeks, every few months we have a new hype in the music, changes, we follow that hype, and things that has already been discovered about 100 years ago, they do not seep into society. One of the prime figures that was busy with that was Mr. Heisenberger about 100 years ago. He was a scientist from, I think from Germany he was. And that was even before, a little bit before Einstein's time. So anyway, gravity does not exist. Okay, Hans, now prove that to me. Proving is another story. I will do an attempt. Here's an apple. We've told by Newton, he saw the apple falling from the tree and it fell. And he said, well, it falls towards the earth, so the earth is attracting the apple. That is why it's moving towards the earth. At the other hand, at the same time, the earth is moving towards the apple at a far slower rate. But anyway, it is like that. Seeing this observation of two things moving towards each other does not mean there is an attraction, like an unknown attraction between these objects. If two cars collide, if you collide with somebody on the street and you hit each other, the cars, does not mean there is an attraction to it. So there's the thinking fault, I dare to say, that the observation of seeing the things moving towards each other doesn't mean they are attracted. That's very essential to understand it. Now, what is the explanation that, amongst others, Mr. Heisenberger put on the table? And now it's got a little bit into a mind thought experiment. Think about time continuum, time from one second to the next second. You could say it's a flowing line from past via present towards the future. We all know this aspect. Well, everything is a function of time. Everything wants to move along its own timeline. Now, if you take this apple, you would put it into space, and there's no other mass or object around. Put it somewhere in space. Then it would be there for the rest of life. Nothing will happen. There's a potential in the apple to move on the timeline, and the timeline is influenced by another mass. So if there's no other mass, the timeline of the apple is being there. Now, if you put any object, say my hand, in the neighborhood of that apple, then the timeline of that apple is influenced by the mass of my hand. So in such a way that the apple wants to move towards my hand, and at the same time my hand wants to move towards that apple. So until there's connection. If you stop that movement, like again the apple and the earth, if I let it fall, it goes down. Now I stop the movement. Now I feel the friction or the resistance of the revolt of nature in the apple. The revolt of nature is I prohibit the apple from doing its natural movement towards the earth. I prohibit that. I prohibit the apple from falling. Now that is translated into a force that I feel in my hand. I feel the force of resistance of the natural movement of the apple. I so much hope that you somehow get the vision of this. And also me now take some time to see this. There are two things about this. First one is that don't believe books, don't believe history books, things that has been put on the earth like this is for sure, this is science, maybe given a question mark, and that applies to everything. That's one thing. Another one is that gravity in this way does not exist as we were told. Thank you. See you next time. I'll be back. Bye bye.